Hi, welcome back to QuadPod. It's the day after the game before. Jay Stansfield hat-trick and the flag, we got the flag up. It wasn't windy and we were able to put the flag up, not once, but twice. I have it on good authority that the players thought that it was fabulous and that some of the new players couldn't believe how big it was. So great to see that out. I'm sure it'll come out again. Right, podcast. Always good to say thank you. Derek from Motherwell, you were absolutely brilliant. Don't forget to have a look at his podcast. And please, I'm going to make a little inroad into the pyrotechnics debate like he has done. If it's done in a safe environment with a safe pyro and in a way in a secure area, then that potentially has got place. But please do not misuse them because it's not the right thing to do. So I'll put it out there. I'm also going to put one out there in terms of Exeter City and give them a bit of a challenge. I'd like to see us have a little bit of a DJ stand there, potentially on the evening matches as well, just to get the crowd really up for it in the pre-match. And we need to follow Sheffield Wednesday's example to a point, maybe not quite so loud, in having a better sound system at the park. Right, match yesterday, unlucky Morecambe. Club close to my family's heart, as my father was removed from London in the Blitz to live in Morecambe, and I had a great aunt that lived there. 800 supporters came down, and it was great to see that even though they lost, they were still connected with their team, and I'm pretty comfortable that they will come back. It was perhaps a little unfortunate for them that Derek Adams is their manager, but just a little shout to Derek. That's a little bit of karma if you're going to make comments about Exeter City Football Club. Right, let's like and share. Please, let's keep it going. 21st episode out. The next interview is a woman in football, which and it was before that her time. That sounds wrong. It was never before their time, but she was one of the pioneers of women in football. And if you listen to the interview, you'll understand the challenges that she had, but also the financial commitment that she put into it. Absolutely amazing story, and I do hope you enjoy it. And this one is dedicated to the volunteer workers. I'm going to put a little shout out for Mike in the shop, the ticket man. You've been brilliant over the years. Don't be a stranger. And you haven't really left, have you? I don't think you have. I think you'll be around. Also to Barry Falls, well done you. And for all the other volunteers that make our club so great. So, in terms of the interview then, I'll give you former chair of the club. Enjoy. All right, let's talk about the trust and trust update at this stage. Again, well done to Berry. That's a real step in the right direction. There's not too much has happened on the trust since our last podcast. We do them weekly and they meet monthly. So I'm going to suggest that we do a call to arms. And in the words of our stadium announcer, Mr. Barry Falls, yesterday, if you enjoyed that, I'm going to put a challenge out to you. You may be a season ticket holder, but that's absolutely irrelevant. If you want to push our club further, think about joining the trust and also get involved, because then you can vote and get involved in the elections. In terms of season tickets, if you can do what my family have done, get a season ticket, right? They really help the club, and let's break the record for season tickets this year. If you can, volunteer. There's always stuff that can be done. and again, get involved in the trust. And and a little shout out at this point to the 1931 Club. If you want to support players at the club, it's a great way of doing it, and great to have a picture with the women's football team and a couple of other members of the 1931 team yesterday, to recognise the great work that the 1931ers do, and particularly a little shout out to Alan C. He couldn't be there because he was super busy with work. Sponsor the club, sponsor a player. Next season is going to be one hell of a season coming up, and we're going to need your support. We need to build here. If you've got a junior, join the Junior Grecians. There's so much fun to be had in that organisation, and it's also great to see the youth in charge yesterday across the club, anywhere from the stadium announcers through to a lady who was stood next to me on the big bank, was doing the media. So it's a great way of getting involved, great experience, and great opportunity to our younger supporters. So please do that. In terms of next season, I'm in no particular order, right? Things to look forward to. We have a lovely trip to Reading up the M4. That is going to be a massive one. You've got if it's on a Saturday, a lovely cheeky weekender to Blackpool. You could also do another cheeky weekender to Wigan Pier, because I believe we've got to play Wigan. We've got Leyton Orient back for London Exiles. That's always going to be a great one. Looking forward to that. We've got, I believe, Stevenage coming back, and I'm not sure as it stands whether it's Northampton or Stockport. And if you look at the playoffs, there is in League Two a distinct possibility of a long haul away match, bearing in mind that Stubbsy's Bradford's in there, and Carlisle, Salford City, and potentially Stockport County. And it's a shame that Mansfield Town look like they're going to miss out again. So it's really important to get involved. If you look at how far we've come and the queues at the park yesterday to get in, we need to think about how we can invest in the improvements to the ground to expand the capacity slightly, or in the future, long term, think about how we develop the ground or maybe move. So I'll put it out there. It's really important. Get yourself involved in the trust. Cheers. Take care. Hi, and welcome back to Quad Pod. I'm Al Yates, and I've got a really interesting guest with me today. We won't go through how many technical problems between us we've got to get to this point, but we are finally getting together. Now, this is a trust-related person, and what I tend to do is go on Wikipedia and try and find some information out about these people. But in this example, there is a little bit on Wikipedia, but I'm going to let this person do their talking. But what I will say is, I believe the longest serving female chairman of a football club in EFL football, unless she's going to correct me. She was the head of the trust from 2006 to 2010. If I've got this right, she took over from Dr. David Traherne and then passed things to Edward Chorlton. So, if you haven't worked it out already, I've got Denise Watts with me. How are you, Denise? You all right?
Good afternoon, Alistair. I'm very well, thank you. What an introduction.
I've tried to do my best. Now, what I will also say is, and not that she's got a face for radio, she did say to me, this better not be going out with pictures, and it isn't. So
Now, I wanted to touch base with Denise, and I'm going to embarrass her a little bit because I'm going to talk about some of her illustrious friends. Now, she sits in good company. Now, Kevin Miller, we had on, and he, when he was at Birmingham City, was managed from a administrative perspective by Karen Brady, who is on The Apprentice. She started at such and such. She ended up going to the Daily Sport, I think, and now manages is the vice chair of West Ham. Also, interestingly, and I'm going to do a shout out to another lady that she's in similar company with, a lady called Kate Tinsley, who I used to work with, and she is a bit of an interesting character. That she's the FA non-executive director. She's a player and coach. She's a big Notts County fan, which I never knew while I was working with her. And she is actually trying to promote women in football. So, Denise, I wanted to share where you were with that. Did you know those two people, by the way?
Well, I didn't know Kate or Karen personally, but I did have a message from Karen Brady shortly after I became chairman. She must have found out. And the only thing she gave me, the only words of advice she did give me, and at the time she was very unwell, but the advice she gave me, Alistair, was if they take any photographs of you, Denise, as you've been appointed chairman, do not pose in a football shirt.
Yes.
That's the only thing she said to me. So I then went ahead with, I think I just got caught with my business suit on because I was working full time when I took over as chairman. I did pose on the stands in my suit with a football. So I followed her advice.
And actually, she's quite an interesting character because I saw a really interesting story about her. Because she famously, when she got on a team bus, and partly for the what you're alluding to, one of the players quipped, "I can see you and see your breasts from here," or something along those lines, right? And she turned around and basically went something along the lines of, "Yeah, and I can sell you to Crew, Alexander." And apparently, and this is no disrespect to Crew, she actually sold that player within 6 months and he was gone from the football club. So that's something I picked up. Anyway, we're interested in you and Exeter City. So talk me through what happened, shall we say, and how and your time. Was that 4 years, I think it was. Is that right?
That's right. Of course, I was very much involved with the club before that, for several years before. And it all started off really, and I try and keep it really brief because I've bored many a person with the story. But I obviously was a single mum of two very small boys. And I always dreaded the day when Ross and George said to me, "Mummy, can we go to a football match?" And of course, inevitably that day dawned. And I had to Google the local football club, which was Exeter City. And I took them along. I was working full time, always worked full time, always have worked full time, and working full time now. But I always took them, and I took them every week. I ended up on we started off on the old grandstand, halfway down, halfway across, and I just took them and took my knitting, or well, not my knitting, but I took messages from work. I took work to do whilst I was watching the football, and I kind of fell in love with it. Short, long story short, and the kids loved it, and I got involved as a single mum with lots of the parents there, and then the day dawned when Russell and Lewis. And I actually watched the money go out of, I can remember watching the money going out in the red boxes. Of course, what I didn't know and what we all found out later is that the money was going out of the club and being filtered out and robbed and stolen. So Russell and Lewis were then, when I was there with the boys, Ross and George, chairman and vice chairman. And of course, the wife was involved too, forget her name now. And then we discovered a little while later that Russell and Lewis had taken the club to the cleaners for £4.2 million, and we then lost our points, and we had the campaign of give us back our points because we were in the CVA administration, and we all decided to get together, and I said, can I volunteer within the club? And I did. Anyway, I can't remember the exact sequence of events, Alistair, but I got involved quite heavily with the club, and I remember going up to Julian Tagg and saying, could I please help? And he said, oh yes, of course. Famous last words. And I got involved with the trust, the formation of the trust, selling things, selling memberships, and we were in a terrible situation. And then I think I got involved with the trust, and I was a trustee when we drew Man U, ball 64. Tony Casperini drew that ball. I remember being at home on the day, and we drew Man U. And I was then a trustee. I do remember that. And then we all went to Manchester United. I was still a trustee. And then I think we got the money, and there was a trust election for a chairman, and I became chairman of the Supporters Trust. I then got involved, sat on, and that's right, because I sat on the board when I became chairman. And I remember having to decide what we were going to do, how we were going to raise the extra money, because we were several £100,000 short of the 4.2 million. And I remember us going to the CVA administrator, or somebody going to the CVA administrator and asking whether they could sign off the last bit of the debt, because we were, even though we were millions of pounds in credit, we were still slightly short. And I can't remember how much, maybe 300,000 or something. I can't quite remember the exact figure. So as we all know, it's written in history, all the creditors who were owed money by the club agreed to sign off their part of the portion, their portion of the money. And I think for their original investment, they got 9p in every pound. But they wrote back to the CVA administrator and said, if it means that Exeter City are going to be in a zero position, we will sign that back. And we did, and we signed off the 4.2 million. And that is the magic moment when the chairman of the Supporters Trust then became chairman of the whole club. And that's the day that I became chairman of Exeter City Football Club.
And we had a good run in terms of on the football side as well, because I think you mentioned Manchester United, which must have been fantastic. There was also, I think, 2 promotions. Is that right?
There were 2 promotions when I was chairman. We were, of course, when I took over, we were in the conference.
Yeah.
And we then went to Wembley, and of course we know that awful day when we played Morecambe, and we lost. I was then in the new Wembley Royal Box with Ross, my son, who was my +1 for the day. And then the following year, we then this is under the leadership of Paul Tisdale, and then the following year we dropped all the razzmatazz, all the suits. We dropped everything. We were playing Cambridge. I was up in the Royal Box for my 2nd year running, looking at that cup going up and down, giving it to somebody else. And as we all know, we won 1-0. Rob got the goal, and we had to sit through another second half before we realised that we had been promoted to the Football League, and we were in League 2, which was a wonderful time for us. I was still chairman. We then, the following season, got promoted again to League 1 when we played at Rotherham. Richard Logan getting the goal, obviously, had a lovely little header. And we were then in League 1. We didn't stay there long, but I don't actually think... I don't think that we cared dropping down to League 2, because it was where we sat naturally, and I was still chairman. So yeah, I mean, during those years of being chairman, yes, I was very successful, and it wasn't easy, and I was working full time. I used to take all my annual leave as board meetings, so every month I took a day off. So 12 days of my annual leave were automatically gone for board meetings. I don't know how I did it, but I did it, and of course I had a lot of support from a lot of people, and Taggy and everybody else, Frances Farley and her husband, Paul Morris, the accountant, I forget his name, lots of people, the secretary. But it was a very good time, and I learned lots, because I went to lots of meetings with the FA. I went to the new Wembley when obviously it was being built, and obviously afterwards I got involved in Carling Cup finals. One of my best friends is Greg Dyke. He's still one of my friends, and we went to lots of, particularly he's a Man U supporter and I'm a Tottenham supporter. So we were invited to Wembley many times to the Carling Cup final, and always sat together. I met Majelski, whatever he's called. And then that's a very interesting conversation when he didn't believe who I was, and he hadn't even heard about Denise Watts. He didn't believe there was ever, but he Googled it at the table and had to apologise profusely.
Really?
Yeah, we had a conversation about cheap wine, and I was very happy with my bottle of wine that was complimentary on the table. And I said, well, if you don't want your bottle of wine, then I'll take yours. And he then proceeded to order a bottle of wine that was £160 from the menu. I said, I'm a single parent living on £60 a week when all my salary is taken. So I said, he said, and my parting shot with him, because he really couldn't believe this. He was reeling with it all. He was like a boxer that was punch drunk. Couldn't believe it. And Greg Dyke said, you know what? He said, you need to Google this woman. As he was leaving to go to Dubai with his girlfriend Cilla Black, right, who wasn't in the room at the time, He said to me, Denise, here's my business card. If ever you want to come to Reading, please come up for the weekend, spend some time looking at the cars and come and have a swim in the pool. And I said, Mr. Majewski, thank you very much, but no thank you.
Brilliant.
So that's a true story.
That's fabulous. And just going back to the Cambridge game, and you talk about how we went up there, I had a sneaky suspicion because I was in one of the pubs. And as you know, we got there the day before Cambridge did, so we booked up all the pubs because we'd been there the year before. And there were some fans from Cambridge singing very loudly, going, oh, go to Wembley. And we were walking down the street going, no, we're just come to win a game of football. It's not about going to Wembley. It was a great time, a great time.
It was a very magical day, really was, particularly in the Royal Box after the match, because nobody could believe that Exeter City had a lady chairman.
Unbelievable. That honestly, even in this day and age, it's unbelievable. Which is why, and I'm going to ask you a question because I know you still watch football, and because I know that we sometimes see each other because we go to, we found a good place to go, shall we say, which we'll keep secret for various reasons. Because it's a good place to park and it's a nice place to go. Where are you? Do you watch the women's football at all? Where do you see the club is at the moment, and how is it in your mind?
I think it's all going really well. Ladies football, of course, I'm a big supporter of ladies football. Very much so. Very much proud of Exeter City and what they've done. Of course, Steve Tully took over as the first, I think, manager of the ladies team. They're all doing really well. But I'm just a big supporter of women's football. As far as the club's concerned, yeah, I mean, I'm very proud of the fact that I never took a single penny or a postage stamp or anything out of the club. And those days have gone by. And obviously, I did it all voluntary. From start to finish, I never took a single penny from the club for expenses. In fact, I gave money to the club. I used to make a habit of writing to all the volunteers personally and posting out all the letters myself or giving them. And I would enhance the club by the very small bit of money that I had. Of course, since those days and since I left, things are different. And I remember being quite annoyed when Ed Chilton took over because he was employed as a chairman for 50 grand a year. And that was double the salary that I was getting when I was working working at the time. So I always remember that being quite a bit of an insult, really. But I'm not one to knock my football club. And I know they've done tremendous things. Of course, we've been very lucky with the sales that we've had with several players. And that has enhanced the training ground. As we speak, it's enhanced the Cat and Fiddle training ground. And even this week, there's been a major change. Of course, everybody is paid now. And, I'm not privy to board meetings, but I know that the budgeting was always very, very carefully done when I was there. And, we had great people on board. And I know, and we both know that, the situation we're in at the moment means that money's been carefully managed. And we bought things, and of course, we've sold people, particularly Ollie Watkins. That must be our most profitable one. But we have had other sell-ons that are still getting us money every day when they step on the field. But yeah, of course, the club has changed. Great things have changed. The one thing I'm very proud of is that when I arrived as lady chairman, there weren't very many women. Di Lee was one of the ladies I remember. Frances Farley being, Elaine, who is now still a director. But there weren't very many women. And one of the things I'm proud of is that, number one, we're still in existence. But number two, we have so many women involved in the club. Women go to football now like men. They enjoy it. I've got girlfriends that I go with every week, go away. Yeah. Not so much now because of responsibilities I've had with my dad. But obviously with my family and my children, we all have families to look after. But I do try to get away whenever I can. I'm a season ticket holder. I pay for my season ticket. It doesn't get given to me. The only thing I was given by the club is a half a season ticket so that I could sit in a season ticket for a half a season until the end of the season. And then I started buying my season ticket. So
really?
I am very proud. Going back to your question I am very proud of the club. I'm really proud to wear the shirt, win or lose. And I support it wherever I can. And also, I am a trust member.
And you know what? There's a cautionary note in there. And I know that we have... we come from a similar thinking about certain things in terms of money and expenses. And we need to be careful as a football club and not forget where we came from and the challenges, as we both know that we had. and this isn't. I don't think you or I, trying to tell people how it should be done, but we need to remember, money was tight, and there's a rumor around that I hear that you did you have to put your house up for a security, or is that wrong?
When I signed up as a director, and when we signed up as directors, if anything would have gone wrong, they would have taken our houses.
Wow.
But because I was a single mum, and because I was really short, I had to pay for all my away trips. And I know I had a company car, but the away trips were quite expensive for the diesel. And yes. I remember, I was a single mum with 2 grown boys, and it really was difficult. And I had to remortgage my house a couple of times during my tenure as chairman, because I really was running short of money. That wasn't to do with the club, but I had to really get money for this extra money. And I did remortgage my house twice whilst I was chairman in that 4-year period.
Wow. And that is a very good note to leave things. And by the way, I'm not being rude. I've been expressly asked to keep this one fairly short, because I know that you need to go and do a few things. And it took a while for us to get together. And by the way, can I just say, as you know, I've got an adult daughter that now goes to football. She's well into football, loves it. And I know a lot of other clubs turn around and go, God, it's a really family club. And there's a lot of families and girls that go in to watch Exeter. And that's partly why I so far in all my episodes, or with this, you're the first, you're one of the first people to come on, or should I say ladies, to come on. So I thank you for doing that. I'd like to get you on the show again another time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's plenty more where this came from.
I know. Look, I know you're going off to do something on Sunday, and we had a technical problem between us. Have a great afternoon. Thank you for your time, and thanks for coming on the show and sharing what you just shared.
That's great, Alistair. Thank you very much for the opportunity. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Right, close of the show, episode 21, Quad Pod. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Denise Watts for doing that recording. It's the end of the season. There's still lots to talk about. We've got a new season coming up. But where'd you get your football fix? I'm going to put a little shout out for Brackley Town of the Northern National League, who beat Chester away. Chester yesterday. My family listened in the car as we were driving back following the game yesterday. They got to play Kidderminster, so I'm getting my football fix next Saturday. Probably watching them. So good luck, Brackley Town. A team that is punching well above their weight in football terms for the size of the community, but it's a good community football club. I'm going to say well done to Plymouth. I know people will be amazed to hear me say that, or hear us say that, should I say. I'm going to say we'll see you next year, and I'm going to pick up on something I heard on the radio from the chairwoman of Port Vale, I believe. She said they should be a little bit more like Plymouth. And I'm going to say it from a business perspective, right? We should be a little bit more like Plymouth. And there is much to be done in that area, and so many opportunities in terms of expanding what we do, sponsorship, getting into the community, and developing the football club commercially. So in that sense, be a little bit more like Plymouth, but we'll see them next season and be playing them hopefully. Women's World Cup in Australia, shout out for the Women's World Cup coming up. England have got a few injuries, but let's see how they get on. We've still got to do our end of season Quad Pod Awards, so look out for that. And there'll also be a review of the season, I believe, from some selected members of the Quatbod team. Nick and Chris will be putting in an appearance, I hope, for that one. Going to put some shout outs now in terms of the close. I'm going to put a particular shout out for Jack Sparks, one of my favourite players to graced Exeter. He, I think, has been potentially not played in his best position at times, but he has put an Exeter City shirt on. He scored some delightful goals. He's a big Exeter fan, and to see him on the end of the game yesterday was heartbreaking. To see how much it meant to him playing for Exeter City. I'm also going to put a shout out to Josh Key and Archie Collins, and obviously to Jay Stansfield, a generation that I don't think in all my years watching Exeter that I have seen. And then you add to that Alex Hartridge, and it's been quite an era of football at Exeter City. Right, a little shout out for Pedro Borges as well. He was probably my second man of the match, and he had a couple of interesting games to start off with. Never easy to go to Ipswich Town away and Sheffield Wednesday, but you know, I saw a tough tackling, a central midfielder who can pass there. He did himself really, really proud. Also another team that have done themselves proud, Exeter City women's football team. You are doing brilliant, and to see you're getting crowds of almost 3,000 at the park, it just shows you that we need to align Exeter City to get you playing at the park. Look, next year it's going to be one hell of a season. Get yourself strapped in, and don't forget, season tickets, join the trust, get involved. If you've got a business, sponsor the club. Let's keep pushing Exeter City further forward. In terms of the fan zone element of the club, of the podcast, watch out for some more interviews with some other football teams, and we will continue to go global over the summer. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Denise, and enjoy your week.